Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Green World is Possible. It's an online candidate forum. I'm very happy to announce that we have some great candidates here to introduce you to. I'm just going to go around and just get everyone announce themselves, give themselves a 1 to 2 minute opening statement. Then we're going to go into a round of questions and answers, and we'll see how time works out. Maybe we'll get several questions so we find out about all these great candidates and why they're running, what inspired them to be Greens and run for office as a Green, and what they hope to do when they get elected.
Instead of going back through my whole life story and my activism and how I got to where I am today in the Green Party, maybe we'll get to that a little bit later. Just for introduction, I just want to say I'm Steve Greenfield. I live in New Paltz, New York. I'm running for Congress in the 19th district. I live it's basically the Hudson Valley. It runs from the southern part of sort of the Poughkeepsie Kingston area, almost all the way up to Albany and out west to Sullivan County. It's a very sprawling, low population density district. My background in the Green Party, to tell you the truth, I moved here in early 2001, having just had our first child. We moved up from the city. I had voted for Nader in '96 and 2000. And like anyone else in a new place looking to make friends, I saw that there was a Green Party here and I decided to go check them out. That first night, I ran into a young man about 20 years my junior that hopefully the name still resonates in the Green Party nationally, which is Jason West, Rebecca Rotzler. And in short order, by about 2 years later than that, we had gotten together and turned the two of them into the first Green Party elected officials in New York State, which was quite a moment in history. And that was followed by the famous same-sex weddings in February of 2004, for which Jason tapped me to contact the New York City press, really based on nothing he might have guessed about my skill set other than that I was from the city. And so he hoped I would know how to reach those people. And that, of course, turned into kind of an international media bonanza that ran on for quite a long time. And of course, as we like to remind people, and it's important, I hope that everybody reminds people of this, this ended up putting a tremendous amount of pressure on the conventional power structure here in New York, at the least the liberal wing of its power structure, to act on this issue. You know, it turned overnight from a niche issue in New York to a massive issue that every liberal had to take a position on, and so it became the law in New York State, and then not long thereafter, the law nationally. And so we're still very pleased when people say, you know, what is your impact? What have you done? That's among the things that we can say, and that's undeniable. People have to sort of give props to that and say, oh yeah, that happened. I remember that. And of course, you know, if the Democrats had won that election, that would never have happened. Who knows when that particular wheel would have turned, when that wheel, you know, when that social justice would have been accomplished. You know, I got involved in running for office myself in 2002. I ran for Congress as a Green here in a slightly differently configured district, largely because I was horrified at the Patriot Act and the invasion of Afghanistan, the response to 9/11, the buildup to the invasion of Iraq. The member of Congress here, generally considered a progressive Democrat, had voted for the Patriot Act, No Child Left Behind, the invasion of Afghanistan. I felt that somebody had to go on record, get into the public arena, the need to put the brakes on this runaway militarized fascism, global conquest that we had run away on in the aftermath of 9/11. So that's how I kind of got started. In 2008, I won my first election. I got elected to the school board here in New Paltz. I was elected a second time in 2014, so I'm a two-term past office holder myself. On the school board in an appointed position at the Legislative Action Committee, which I had chaired while I was on the school board. Legislation is really my passion. It's something I study, devote myself to, advocate for in many different forums. I'm a volunteer firefighter here in New York for 17 years, and as part of that, I've become our county association delegate, and that's also a legislative action position in which we advocate for new legislation that's conducive to the volunteer fire service and for keeping people involved in firefighting and keeping their careers going over the course of a lifetime. So that's a little bit different than what people usually expect from a Green. I'm an Eagle Scout as well. I'm a firefighter. I've had terms in office. I've been a legislative advocate. I'm also currently the vice president of Local 238-291 of the American Federation of Musicians. I've been on the executive board there for about 4 years now. That is my profession. I'm a musician. I hold a bachelor's degree in economics from Columbia, and I think that's pretty much the most important skill set that needs to be brought to Washington today. We have nothing but corporate lawyers down there, and the way they're acting, and I don't just mean the way they're acting towards each other, but I mean the kind of legislation that they're passing and the kind of billing that they do to corporate America in exchange for that legislation makes it very clear that that corporate lawyer is pretty much the entree to politics, and I hope to impress upon people that understanding, the laws of supply and demand and how markets function and what parts of our structure like medical care and health insurance don't actually function as markets, and why we need to get away and start from market models and start treating those things the way we treat public education and the way we treat the fire service as public functions, because they don't work at all on a market model, and that our healthcare works the same way. And so I'm here basically running. It's a follow up to the campaign I had for the same office in 2018. Which I felt driven to enter after taking a little bit of a break from running for office and trying to maybe be a better husband and father and more dedicated professional musician during that period. But the district where I live, the Democrats lurched pretty hard to the right in 2018. In 2016, they ran Zephyr Teachout, who was a good, solid progressive and has been a thorn in Andrew Cuomo's side. In our state, which has been very important, and a law professor with her field of specialty of corruption in government. And then they lurched very hard to the right. A carpetbagger came up from a major international corporate law firm and moved here. He came in already staged with $2 million and raised a lot more, and swept their primaries. And their second place candidate was a West Point graduate who had been serving in military intelligence, and was actually, his profession at that time was a data miner of Twitter for the CIA. And so I couldn't really believe the turn of the Democratic Party so starkly to the right at just this particular juncture after Trump had become president. And so I felt well positioned as an office holder in this district, as somebody who had a good public profile, who was credible on legislation, and advocacy, who was going to bring these issues back into the debate, into the public discourse. And so I'm here giving it a second try. It's the 19th district, congressional district, New York State, United States House of Representatives. And we'll discuss more about the issues of this district, and why, what my platform is about, later tonight. I guess I'd like to hear the rest of the introductions.
And I wanted to know if you could share experiences on your current campaign, because now we're campaigning during a time of COVID. You can't. It's not as easy to go out and get out the vote and shake hands with people and all that kind of stuff and raise money the way you used to. Just want to find out, how you're dealing with the current struggles with campaigning during this time. Also, along with COVID, we also have the other plague of people trying to get Donald Trump out of the office. No matter what office you're running for, they're gonna find a way that, yeah, we're gonna, if you're running for, dog catcher, they're like, yeah, but if we vote for you for dog catcher, Trump's gonna win. So it's just so ridiculous. People are so brainwashed right now. So just wanted to know if you could share some of your stories from the campaign trail.
You want to talk about the ballot access process?
Well, you have a couple of things. There's a ballot access thing in New York that adds up for this election cycle, and also you were just excluded from a televised debate, weren't you?
Two of them as of now, probably more. Basically, I'm not allowed into any of them this year. So that was a big slap in the face. It was, let me take you back to ballot access, right? We had to get about half the number of signatures as usual this year because Governor Cuomo cut short the petitioning period. And it was obvious that you could not penalize the people that were already out there petitioning. So they did reduce our signatures threshold somewhat. Now, I've been running as a Green, let's see, 2002, 2003, 2011. Every time that I've run, I get challenged. And every time my petition gets challenged, it survives the challenge. It's just sort of something that I've absorbed as part of my process, that I know that the Democrats are going to challenge my petition and that the petition is going to survive because I do not submit insufficient petitions. And so it's just something of a nuisance. This year, something really unprecedented happened. They announced that they were challenging my petition, but then something secondary happened that I believe is unprecedented in the history of the United States. And I still have no idea why no news outlet wanted to pick it up. Even Fox, who you would have thought would have jumped on something that would make Democrats look like they were vote suppressors, which of course we know that they are, but since they accuse Republicans of that all the time, I really expected at least Fox would get on this story and that would help carry it to a wider audience. What happened was the DNC down in Washington and DNC counsel retained a local law firm in New York, also affiliated with the New York State Democratic Party, and actually filed in court to prevent the Board of Elections from certifying my petition. This is a completely novel approach. This was not an attack on signatures to claim, as it turned out, that I only had 3 signatures that were disqualified. So obviously my petition was as close to perfect as a petition could get. So the signatures were obviously not the issue, and I'm sure that when they reviewed the petitions, the copies that they foiled, they saw that they were looking at basically a perfect petition, and so they came up with a novel idea where they filed in court in New York State, claiming that due to the pressures on the staff of the New York State Board of Elections because of COVID-19, that they felt that the New York State Board of Elections staff would not be competent to certify my petition as sufficient. And they actually sought an injunction from the courts prohibiting the New York State Board of Elections from fulfilling its essential function, its only function. This, to my mind, represented something unprecedented in the history of the United States. Actually, the lawsuit was against the New York State Board of Elections, not against me personally to try to get my petition removed. I was able to get a pro bono lawyer to help me with that. I sent out a lot of press releases. There were a couple of nibbles, one from Politico, one from the Oneonta Star, and neither one followed through. I sent several rounds of messages. It didn't proceed, which left me sort of wondering if we were looking at a new paradigm this year in terms of media access, which I'm sure everybody out there is experiencing, that is in fact the case. The Democratic Party is spending more money than ever before and issuing more pressure to the media in terms of whether it's going to make advertising buys, whether they're going to show up for forums themselves if minor party candidates are invited. I don't really know why. I'm not a very important person. I know I have a small public profile in my district, and maybe some of that is earned, from some of the work that we've done here. But the Democrats here are obsessed with me, and I don't just mean during election year. I mean, all the time. I know that I did remove several Democrats from office who were engaged in corruption, and I made that public. I am, obviously a particular target for them, and so word went out. Some, invitations that I got early in the campaign cycle were later rescinded on the grounds that they're adopting new standards of newsworthiness for minor party candidates. People wanted me to show poll results. That was a good one. And I wrote back to them, how can I show you poll results when the polling companies don't include my name in their survey? That's outside my control. You put me in a catch 22. You've created access requirements that are outside my own span of control and that I can't fulfill. And so this is the way that the game was being played. At the same time, traditional campaigning at public events and going door to door and things like that became impossible this year due to the pandemic. I personally carry a slightly higher burden for avoiding infection than most people because I get on fire trucks every day, which is a pretty small enclosed space. And if I were to become infected, the New Paltz Fire Department would have to be quarantined, and 13,000 people would be without a fire department. So I had to sort of incorporate some particular contagion standards for myself. All of this added up with, most public events canceled and basically disallowed by state regulations and local regulations. It's been, I want to be very upfront with everybody. It's been an extremely dismal campaign season. The work has been strictly through social media accounts. I've now, with 2 weeks to go, whatever this is, 2.5 weeks to go, I've suddenly got a little spate of interviews. I did a TV station that actually gave me a 2-minute, almost like to create your own commercial. Up in the northern part of the district, I'll be interviewed by another newspaper tomorrow. That's in 2 counties in the northern part of the district. And so there's a little bit happening now in the late stages, obviously too little too late. It's kind of a shame because the district this year was open. 2 years ago, we were considered a competitive district between the Democrats and the Republicans because the voter enrollment slightly favored Republicans. There was a Republican incumbent. And so people felt it was an in-play district, a purple district. This year, of course, everything's the exact opposite. The Republican Party up here fell into total disarray after losing 2 years ago. Now the Democrat is the incumbent. He's flush with cash. Every right-wing institution, every chamber of commerce is endorsing him from Washington down to the local level. And the Republicans are not even pretending to compete in this election. And so I really thought that, not really expecting to win, being realist about going into this election, because the Republican Party was basically conceding this district this year. I felt that this would be a perfect opportunity to have something much closer to a 3-way race, that the public and the media would treat it that way. But because of COVID-19 and some unusual levels of pressure that are brought about by the Democrats, because I guess just like in 2001, they've decided they're just not having it anymore, and they're really pouring resources like we haven't seen since between 2001 and 2004 to suppress us at the ballot level and to suppress us at the media level. And I have to honestly report to you that it's been succeeding. I don't count myself out in terms of despair and will I continue to do this. Quite the contrary. I want to motivate my fellow candidates out there from here in the Green Party about one particular issue. I know you've all been hearing it out there while campaigning, and messages to you through social media and email, that the Democrats seem to be, the grassroots Democrats, not the National Party, are always telling us that, yeah, we don't like Biden. This is terrible. This is just what we're stuck with. But Trump is an emergency. And so we're going to elect all these people and then we're going to pressure them. We're going to put pressure on them to do the right thing. Okay, this is Lucy with the football, with Charlie Brown. We as Greens, we know that this never happens. If it ever happened, I'm sure several of us wouldn't be Greens, And so I think that what we need to do is transition out of our campaigns this year and become that pressure. The Democrats are not going to do it. They're not going to organize pressure. I think we need to step into that breach. I'd like to see what has happened to us this year as more of an opportunity than we're accustomed to seeing, because that message is out there that pressure has to be brought, and we're the only people that are going to be bringing it. So I want to encourage everyone else running to not despair about what we've experienced this year. It's an unusual year, both health-wise and politics-wise, and we're just going to have to step directly into the street action leadership role, because our names will have been out there and people will recognize us as the initial leaders on these issues. So I just want to encourage everybody to take a few days off when you're done and then get right out there and bring people together for this action that everyone promised to take.
My apologies to everybody because I know I ran late, but you all have so much great stuff to share about your campaigns, because I've seen. Like this, for me, this feels like the most aggressive attack of Greens. It's like every 4 years, not each election cycle so much, but every 4 years, that's when everyone seems to jump on. And 2000, we saw it with all your spoilers, 2004, and then 2008, and then 16, or Russian bots, and 2020, it's like we're funded by Republicans and everything you could think of. And I think it's really important to hear your struggles and to share that with everybody. And what I want to do is sort of start winding down to a closing. So have you all sort of give a closing statement, but also talk about anything that you wanted to share that we didn't have a chance to go through during the question and answers.
Really, what I have to say right now is basically the entire theme of the campaign, which can be summarized pretty succinctly. The United States is in a state of health, economic, environmental, and social crisis unlike any seen since the years between the onset of the Great Depression and the end of World War II. Democrats and Republicans are jointly responsible for our failure to prepare emergency systems, and neither have any plan for how to end the crisis and emerge onto a road back to stability, let alone any kind of freedom and prosperity. Contrary to the myth that our problems are caused by their refusal to cooperate, they have collaborated perfectly to bring us to ruin and prevent us from getting back up again. Now more than ever, we need to reject the politics of obscene profit to people and institutions of great wealth, all of which are doing better than ever, and try something different. We've done it successfully during hard times in the past, and we need to do it again. There must be no politics as usual until we are restored to safety and prosperity with sustainability and resilience prioritized over profit. And, that's kind of the pitch of the whole campaign here. And I have to say, when you look at the platforms of the Democrat in my race and the Republican in my race, and I'm going to say that when you look at the platforms of the national parties of those two parties, there is literally nothing in their platforms that are specific to the state of crisis we are in right now. Nothing. There's nothing about direct hiring. There's nothing about relieving people's bills and businesses' bills and things so that we can just kind of hang on and get through. There's, both parties are rejecting universal health care when the reason that we're in all this trouble is because of a health crisis. Everyone wants to expand fracking, even though the entire West Coast is burning down in front of our eyes. And no one will consider a carbon tax as a way of preventing the weakening demand for fossil fuels from lowering its price and thereby jacking its demand back up again. I cannot believe for the life of me that I'm looking at these platforms and I'm looking at business as usual platforms when we're in a time of grave overlapping and interrelated crisis. This country is in a state of emergency. Every governor, every government is declaring, it's in the media, they're using that term. We're in a state of emergency. We're in a state of emergency. Well, where is it in your platform, pal? Where is that state of emergency? Show me where you're addressing any part of it. Or does this look just like your 2018 platform and your 2016 platform and your 2014 platform? This boggles my mind. And I feel like there have to be a lot of people out there whose minds are just as boggled as mine about how this could all be happening. And are we going to keep incentivizing these two major parties to keep on doing this, to keep ignoring these crises that they themselves created basically for profit, for themselves and their donors? And we keep rewarding them with our votes and validating them, even when they plainly, nakedly in front of our eyes have no proposals whatsoever for anything that the rest of us are living through right now, as if this is, just some kind of, propaganda campaign to declare that we're in a state of emergency, but then try to offset that with nothing. So by all means, I need donations. It can be found on my donation button on Greenfield, stevegreenfieldforcongress.com. I can get together a few radio spots, social media ads between now and the end of the race and make that one last push. So please, anything anyone can do to help be greatly appreciated. And in particular, use your own social media to circulate what you're finding on our websites. Get that out to people directly. Thanks.
Thank you all for your time. And I really, really want to see you all get elected and in office. And like you said, it's so important to have the Green Party running for office and getting elected to help push those policies to, move everything in the direction it should be, because the Democrats aren't doing it. They haven't been doing it for the last 20 years, and their only campaign platform is "we're not the Republicans," and it's just not acceptable now with the way the world is going. So thank you once again, and I hope
Thank
to
you.
talk to you in person one day.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for.
Here. Thank you. I had a good time and I enjoyed listening to you all, and I thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And if we can all get to the House and get to the Senate and get to our respective office, can you imagine the change that we could make in Washington with us, the people who are on here, and Lisa Savage going to, oh my God, like I think that things could happen. Like we could do some real good in Washington as Greens. So I'm going to be, as a minister, I'm going to be praying for you and myself. And I'm just, thank you so much. It was nice meeting you all.
Good luck to everyone.
Yes, yes. Great meeting you all and hearing from you.
Me too.
Thank you much.
Okay. See you, everyone.